Right, hour 16. Yeah, this is where it gets tough. I did a 24-hour running race and it completely changed my outlook on life. First of all, let me explain the concept of a 24-hour running race because I'm sure you're not all aware of what that is. The general idea of a 24-hour running race is to run or walk as far as you can in 24 hours. Pretty simple, right? Some people choose to walk the whole time and some people try to run the whole time, but what ends up happening is usually there's a mixture of both. These races usually take place around a loop, a 1 kilometer loop for example, or even something like an athletics track, a 400-meter loop. The reason it's done in a loop is usually because it's easier logistically to get food, water and first aid if a runner needs it. The thing to note however is running on a loop is a huge mental challenge. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to not get too bored with it. So now that I've explained what a 24-hour running race is, here is actually why I chose to do it in the first place. We have to go back 10 years ago to when I was in my first year of high school. I was about 12 years old. I was not a very fit kid. In fact, I was one of the least fit kids in the whole of my year group. I struggled to be fit throughout high school, and it was only until after high school I started running consistently and I found a passion for it. I truly believe being consistent with running is what pushed me to that next step of my running journey, and it got me to run things like half marathons and ultra marathons, of which I've done quite a few at this point since it's been 5 years since I started. I've also started a running streak of which I've done well over a year now, and that running streak involves running at least 3 kilometers every day without excuse. That is how it works. So all of that stuff led me to this point, running for 24 hours. Now the question is, how did I do it? Let me go into that a bit. Training for a race like this is trying to prepare to climb Mount Everest. You can't do the thing until you do the thing, if you know what I mean. You can do things to prepare as much as possible, but nothing's going to fully prepare you for what's ahead. There's many elements of preparation for a 24-hour race, so I'll just cover them all now. Firstly and most importantly is running lots. In the weeks leading up to the race, I was running between 80 kilometers and 120 kilometers. However, even this wasn't enough necessarily. If I could go back and change things, I would have run further, maybe done 100-mile weeks, 160 kilometers per week to really get my body prepared. After all, it is a running race, so you have to be able to run. The next step is to know your nutrition and know exactly what you're going to need to eat, drink, and consume throughout the day. So for me, I experimented with a lot of different carbohydrate drinks, and I settled on Tailwind and also an electrolyte drink. So these drinks kept me fueled for most of the race, and in between I'd have a little bit of food, but I try not to have too much food because what happens is it comes back out if you have too much food. And during the race this did happen. A few people were thrown up. Luckily I wasn't one of them, but I am not going to take my chances with that going forward. Speaking of taking chances, what I also did to prepare was make sure I had backups in case something like blistering or chafing started to happen. I brought stuff like Body Glide with me, and I ended up using that quite a lot throughout the race, which really helped. I honestly don't know if I could even have finished the race without these kind of products with me. Finally, in terms of preparation, you have to think about logistics. How much water do I need? How much food do I need? Who's going to be coming to support me? Are they going to need a tent or a gazebo if it rains? All of these things you have to consider, plus more, plus much more. Stuff like, are you going to use a phone for music? And what kind of music are you going to play? And we're going to listen to a podcast, and are you going to have that downloaded? Are you going to have power banks for all these devices that you might be using throughout the race, because it can get pretty boring? I ended up using multiple sets of running gear and also multiple shoes, which did come in very handy. The primary reason I used multiple shoes is because they switched things up for my legs just enough so that the same muscles weren't being used the whole time. Okay, so you watched the video thus far. I'm going to cover the race and how it actually went. The day started calm and relatively warm. The race started at 9 AM. 18 people had entered the race, and by the end of it, only 10 people had finished. There were also runners doing the 6-hour and 12-hour version of the event, so that's why the footage you're seeing has a lot more runners than just 18 people. I did hourly updates of the race, which you can find in my YouTube shorts, but I'll just keep things brief here. The first 6 hours of the race were an absolute breeze. I felt really good. There's a lot of support and I had no issues at all, maybe just some minor chafing. I was going at a slow pace from the get-go, which really helped me continue the race later on. The next 6 hours were a bit tough, but still okay. The sun didn't go down till 9 PM, which meant that it was pretty warm getting into the evening. And with warmth comes dehydration and also chafing, because the salt in your shirt starts to really rub on your skin. Hours 12 to 18 were some of the hardest I went through during the race. Luckily my dad was there to support me the whole way, and he stayed up the whole night to see me through. What a legend. I don't think I would have got through these hours without his encouragement, so thank you for that, Dad. Appreciate it. Keep going. I just reminded myself that the pain and suffering was temporary and it would all be over soon. Well, it was going to be over soon enough. But during this time, I was alternating between running and walking because to run the whole time was just getting quite difficult. My legs were really sore and really heavy. The last 6 hours from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. were also very hard. They were actually the hardest hours of the whole race, even though I was getting close to the end. I was exhausted mentally and physically because I didn't sleep throughout the night. However, my supporters really kept me going, so thank you guys. When the sun came up, it felt like I was turning a new leaf and things were starting to look like I was going to reach the end. I did take a 20-minute nap because I was very tired, but I was soon forced out of that nap when my dad put my shoes on and told me to keep going. And I'm glad I did. The last hour was honestly such a roller coaster of emotions. I went from feeling distraught and sad and really sore to feeling elevated because there were a lot of people there supporting me as I was finishing. And at long last, I'd finished the race. I ran 171 kilometers, which is a mind-boggling distance to even comprehend. By the end of it, I didn't really feel much emotion, mostly because I had no energy for it. So here are the things I've learned by doing this experience. A positive mindset can get you through a lot of pain and suffering. Instead of wallowing in your despair and thinking about how bad things are, you can choose to attack that and just keep moving forward. That's what I did. Even when things were painful, I just kept telling myself one step at a time, and that seemed to have worked because I did finish. So if you're ever in a situation where maybe physically or mentally you're being pushed to the brink, just remind yourself that these things are temporary and things will soon even out again. I definitely want to do one of these races again, and I will train much harder for it and try to hit the 200-kilometer mark because I know I can do it. My body can handle it. I hope this video inspires you in some way to go out there and push yourself to your mental and physical limits. Whether that be a 5-kilometer run, a 50-kilometer run, maybe a 20 kg deadlift or a 200 kg deadlift. Everyone has different limits, everyone has different goals, and everyone has different capabilities. So even if it's not a 24-hour race, still go out there, crush your goals. The next day I went for a 3-kilometer run because I had to for my running streak. That was a very painful experience, but it taught me a lot about discipline. Anyway, this is just the start of a running journey and a running career I wish to have in the ultramarathon space. If you'd like to stay updated, I will be posting more videos on YouTube, and I also post regularly on TikTok, so you can find all of that stuff in the description below. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.